Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Nomofsky. On today's episode, we're discussing the important role of being an executor. And so, Cheryl, I want to ask you, why is the executor role so intense and so hard to do? Because a lot of people think, oh, okay, I'll do it. And they don't put a lot of thought process into what exactly they're doing. Because whenever you talk to anyone who's done the role, you hear that it was a lot more stressful, a lot more involved, and took a lot longer than they originally thought.
Well, an executor role is a fiduciary duty, and a fiduciary duty carries a much higher standard of conduct and care because you are actually dealing with the management and distribution of money that belongs to another person, another party. So you're held to a much higher standard of conduct and care, and you are expected to act in a more, if you want to call it, professional manner than you would for your own personal business.
So basically, fiduciary duty, you've got to put the will, the deceased, and the role of being an executor first, over and above anything else.
Absolutely. They don't care how busy you are at work. If you're working full time, have a lot of demands on your plate, the moment that job starts, that's your number one. And that's the one thing that the courts will really make you stick to is you have to stick to their timelines and meet those deadlines, or that's not going to be a good day for the executor.
So when do all the responsibilities kick in as an executor?
So when you start doing your very first duty, so let's use an example. Let's say you're the executor for person A and person A passes away. So the moment you step into that role is the moment you do something on behalf of that deceased person. So then the clock starts ticking and you become the executor. And that's when your duties start. So in a lot of cases, it is the executor stepping in to arrange the funeral. And as soon as they start to do something like that, their role starts.
So who is the executor responsible to?
Well, the executor is personally responsible for his or her actions to beneficiaries and creditors in relation to investment losses or breaches of trust. And they're also responsible to other parties who have dealings with the deceased, such as contractual obligations or wrongs in law.
So let's just talk about the role a little bit more. You talked about, paying taxes for the deceased. I think a lot of people don't even think that when somebody is deceased, they still had to pay their taxes for whatever amount the year that they were alive still. Mm-hmm. And there's bill paying, and there's so much more involved than just, handing out money or yes, dividing up whatever the deceased wanted so-and-so to have, or children or whatever.
Well, there's so many balls in the air when you think about it. The executor has so many tasks to do. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the role can equate to 90 to 100 individual tasks that they have to complete in that time period. And there are deadlines with regards to that. And also for the executor, they have to stick to those deadlines. Like it's extremely important to meet them, so there's no CRA issues or issues with the Ministry of Finance.
So what are some common issues that you see people, when somebody's planning their estates, what are some common issues that are forgotten or are not included to make an executor's life really, really difficult?
Well, one thing would be to make sure that your wishes are properly listed in your will. Verbal contracts can be an issue. If you say one thing, but something else is in your will, that could pose a really big problem for your executor. Another thing is setting your executor up for success. We think about wills and powers of attorney, but you don't want your executor to walk into your home and have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out what bank do you deal with? Where's your investment advisor? Who's your lawyer? Like they have to search through everything. If you don't leave them a roadmap for success, they're going to have some difficulty.
Okay, so we've got a minute before we go to commercial break. Why do executors get sued?
Well, there's lots of reasons, and mainly it could be because of an error that an executor made, or if a beneficiary thinks an executor has made an error. So let's think of some things like perceived favoritism could be one. Maybe the beneficiary think there's a conflict of interest with the executor. One could be errors in valuation. So think of a painting on grandma's wall. Maybe somebody put it out in a garage sale, not thinking of much, and then somebody comes 2 weeks later and says, Where are those group of 7 paintings that were on Grandma's wall? That could be a bad day for the
Yeah.
executor.
So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about pressure to settle and everything else, more executor duties and why it's really, really important. So please don't go away. If you are an executor, this is a must-watch episode because you don't want to misstep.